All right, good morning to everyone. Good morning and welcome to the well here at STSA. Welcome all of our friends over there in Leesburg, our friends here in Arlington, and those who are watching at home. If you're coming today for the first time or the first time in a long time, you could not have chosen a better Sunday to come to church. Because today we are kicking off. I like the amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, someone's awake. Like I said, I got lights in my face, so I don't know who I'm talking to. We're kicking off a new series today titled The God Who Isn't. And this series, I'm telling you, we're going to shatter some myths and some misconceptions and some things. I'm going to be talking about some things over these next 5 weeks, and you're going to be like, no, Father Anthony, I've always thought that, or I've always been taught that, or it's always been true that, and we're going to shatter some of those things here. So I'm asking you in advance, okay, if you are prepared to change your mindset about some of the things that you may have always thought may be true. Are you ready for that? Say, yes, I'm ready. Okay, very good. We're going to kick off by starting with a little story. Last series, if you were here, we started off with the story of Manny and Annie. Today, I want to tell a story of Ricky and Vicki. There you go. Ricky and Vicki were two college students who met one day at their freshman year at college on campus, and they had similar kind of backgrounds, both in the Northern Virginia area, but they were away at college. And as soon as they met each other, Ricky noticed Vicki two things about her. Number one is she was drop dead gorgeous. The smile and the hair and the nose and the ear, whatever it may be, okay? And he was into Vicki from the moment that he saw her. But then when he spoke to her, the second thing that he noticed about her is that she was very intimidating. He felt very like she was a snob and she looked down at him. He felt like she was judging him in her head and he wasn't good enough for her. So because of that, okay, no guy wants to made to feel like he's no good. So thank you so much, Miss Vicki. Have a nice life. He didn't want to have anything to do with her. So he avoided her. And occasionally they'd run into each other on campus or whatnot, and hey, whatever it is. But he just basically did his best. If she's coming left, he goes right, just to stay away from her because of the way she made him feel. Now, unfortunately, the thing for Ricky is that his mom and Vicki's mom were friends. Same church community back home. And lo and behold, their third year of college, so 2 years go by. Ricky had done his best to avoid her for 2 years. Third year of college, it's fall break. Ricky's going to drive home because he's got a car. Vicki has no car on campus, so her mother says, I don't know how Vicki's going to get home for fall break. Ricky's mom says, shouldn't be a problem because Ricky's coming home at the same time. So she went ahead and volunteered Ricky to drive home Vicki. Oh, that's right. Mom's getting all up in someone else's business. So Ricky's annoyed. And Ricky's done his best for 2 years to avoid her. And now all of a sudden his nightmare has come true. Not only he's avoiding her for 2 years, now he's stuck with her for 2 hours in a car by themselves. He begged anybody. Anyone want to come home? Anyone else need a ride? I'll drive you wherever it is. He wanted just to get anyone in that car because he did not want to be stuck with this uptight, snobbish Vicki lady. The day comes. Ricky comes up with the strategy. He's got a plan of how he's going to keep it superficial. So he's got his subjects. He's got his topics. We're going to talk about this. And we're just going to kind of keep it surface level so I don't have to actually delve into anything because this girl drives me bonkers. Yeah, it's about to get like that. Okay, just stay tuned for me, little guy. Stay tuned for me. After some awkward silence in the conversation, Vicki says the following. Ricky, can I share something with you? Which he's thinking, here we go. She's going to give me a piece of her mind. Snobby, high class Vicki, come from whatever, is going to look down at me and tell me my car is not good enough, or tell me that my haircut's off, or tell me that I'm rude. She going to, whatever it may be. So he's dreading this. She's going to give me a piece of her mind. And Vicki says, this is awkward. It's awkward for me to say this, but I feel like there's a barrier in our relationship. I feel that you look down at me. I feel that you don't want to have anything to do with me. I feel like you judge me every time I see you. Ricky couldn't believe what he was hearing. He started laughing. He explained what's been happening over the past 2 years, and they've been happily married for the last 25 years. Now, this story ends with an awe and a happy and clapping. But it's a story. No, I didn't mean really have to clap, but thank you. Okay? But it's a story that almost had a tragic ending. That if it was not for a forced conversation, which Ricky didn't want and Vicki didn't want, but the parents wanted, then Ricky would have spent his whole life feeling judged, feeling put down by Vicki, thinking that she is someone, and the worst part is, it's not even true. The worst part is that the wrong perception almost ruined a relationship from happening. Let me say that one again. The wrong perception, not reality. The wrong perception almost stopped a great relationship from happening. Well, I believe the same is often true in our relationship with God. I believe that every single one of us has a picture of God in our minds that we grew up with, or that was given to us by our parents, or by our friends, or by society, or by that movie, or by our favorite talk show host, or whatever it may be. All of us have a picture of God in our mind, and we think we know exactly what God's like. We think we know exactly how God looks at us. We think we know everything that's going on with God, and we got it all figured out. But here's my question to you as we kick off this series. What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? Have you ever thought that you might be wrong? I know it's a tough thing to accept that I could be wrong. But what if the picture in your mind is simply just in your mind? What if the reality is different than the perception? Do you think it'll affect your relationship with God? If that picture in your head is wrong, you think it'll change the way you listen to that sermon that you just heard a little bit ago? Or when you hear about prayer? Or when you hear about Bible, you think it'll affect that? You know, if you member here at this church, you know, recently we've been talking a lot about prayer. Again, I feel like this is the message God has really been putting on my heart, that STSA, above all else, has to be a house of prayer. Houses of prayer, houses of prayer, that's what we need. We want to start prayer groups, prayer initiative. The next series of our life group is going to all be about prayer. We're going to do all kinds of prayer things. Prayer, 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 prayer. Let me ask you a question. Prayer is very important. What's the most important part of prayer? What's the most important facet of prayer? It's not the words that you say. It's not the time that you do it. It's not the place. It's not the context. It's not the format. None of those things are the most important thing when it comes to prayer. The most important part of prayer, the 99% of it, is your view or your perception of God. Because prayer is communicating with God. And if you have the wrong view of God, it's going to skew what you say, when you say it, how often you say it. Everything is going to be skewed based on your perception, not the reality, based on your perception of who God is. Prayer is about spending time with God. But if you think about God, if your picture of God is an angry, angry man, that's your picture of God. And I'm like, you should spend time with God as often as possible. Why would I do that? Like, I got angry people in my life. I don't want to spend time with them. Why would I want to spend... If your picture of God is the fun police, the thou shalt not, and I caught thou then, and your picture of God is like the cop on 66 with the radar gun, just trying to catch you in something, then I'm like, come on a weekend retreat with God. Why would I do that? Like, I avoid those places where I know that the cops are hanging out. Why would I spend a weekend with someone who I think is just trying to get me in trouble? You see how this works? It's not the reality. It's your perception, which is greater than reality, which I believe, honestly, I believe that every decision that you make in life, I believe how you treat your spouse, how you view marriage, is based on your perception of God. I believe your view of money and giving and generosity versus selfishness is based on your view of God. I believe that the way you approach purity is based on your view of God. I believe all of our life, all of our interactions, and truthfully, it's not just this life, it's the one to come that's also based on that as well. I'm going to show you a quote up here on the screen, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know who said this quote. I looked it up. This is a quote that I read, and I wrote it down a long time. I've given series on this quote. It's one of the most powerful quotes to me. I don't know who said it. So if anyone can figure out who said it, it'd be great. I looked onto Google and the chat GPT, and no one could tell me who said it. But that's probably because I mistyped it or didn't get it exactly. But this is, in essence, what it says. It says, the most telling characteristic about a man is what his view of God is. This will determine the outcome of his life more than anything else. You believe that or don't believe that? I believe that's 100% true. I believe there's nothing more true than that. I believe your political views aren't as important as your view of who God is. I believe your upbringing, your experiences None of those things matter as much as your view of who God is. Now, all of those things may affect your view of God, but ultimately in the end, it's your outlook that determines your outcome. Your outlook that determines your outcome. Because something that I believe, and I hope you believe it too, every behavior in life comes from a belief. Every behavior comes from a belief. If the thinking and the belief system is dysfunctional, the life will be dysfunctional. Every person who misbehaves or acts out, or I don't know why I did that, or I can't understand why that person is doing that. Well, the root of it, it comes down to dysfunctional thinking will lead to dysfunctional living. And that's why, in this series, we want to correct our perception. I love this verse from Matthew chapter 6, verse 22 and 23. Jesus says, he says, the lamp of the body is the eye. If, therefore, your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. Don't take this just in a physical eye, spiritual. But if your eye is bad, if your view is bad, if you're not seeing things right, your whole body will be full of darkness. If, therefore, the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Do you believe that or don't believe that? Jesus is saying if you're not seeing right, you're never going to live right. And so many of the problems, I believe, in our lives, in our behavior, in our addictions, in our never-ending list of problems that we just can't get past, comes down to our view of who God is. That's what we're going to figure out here in this series. The good news is maybe the problem isn't you. I tell you, pray, you're like, I can't pray. Maybe the problem isn't you and prayer. Maybe the problem is your view of God. I tell you generosity, not selfishness. You're like, that can't. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the love your enemies. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the purity. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the problem is your view of who God is. And if we can adjust that view, then maybe things will turn around for you. Our goal in this series is to discuss 5 different versions of God, which I do not believe exist. 5 gods that maybe we created, that, like I said, maybe society or our parents or our teachers or the conservative school we went to or the liberal whatever who taught us whatever. Like that these gods that have been created and that are in our head that we are praying to and think are going to be judging us. And we're praying to a God, and the real God's over there. We're praying to someone that doesn't even exist. We're going to discuss 5 of these gods, because as long as the version of that God is in your head, you're going to be in trouble. We're going to talk about, just a little sneak peek, we're going to talk about boyfriend God. We're going to talk about guilt God. Okay, our parents may have influenced that one tremendously. We're going to talk about anti-science God. We're going to talk about on-demand God, everyone's favorite. And then today, we're going to kick off this series by talking about Bodyguard God. And we should have put a little dun, dun, like a little music for the superhero as he walks in. Bodyguard God. Bodyguard God, his job is one thing in life. What's a bodyguard's job? Nothing bad happens to me. You protect me. Anyone who comes near me, you smash them. Anything bad, nothing bad should happen to me. From bodyguard God around me. And some of us, that's what we think God's job is. And if that's you say the following sentence, which we all say, we've all thought if we're being honest. How can I believe in a God who allows so much evil? How can I believe in a God to be loving when I see so much pain and suffering? I see school shooters. I see drunk drivers. I see sexual abuse. I see natural disasters. I see crimes. I see diseases and sicknesses. And that's all at the macro level. I see that my kid is sick. I see that my mom is dying. I see that my parents are not together. I see that my prayer hasn't been answered. I see that everybody else's life is on track except one, mine. I see that everyone else gets to celebrate except me. So how can I believe in a God if he's not protecting me? Bodyguard God is based on 2 false ideas stapled together. The 2 false ideas. Number 1, God's job is to make me happy. That's false idea number 1. Meaning we confuse God and Santa Claus. Okay, there's a correlation between them. Okay, they both watch when you're naughty and nice, and if you're good, they give you good stuff, and you're bad, they give you like that. That's how we think of that. That's a lie. That God's job is to make me happy. Second lie, this one's going to be tough. You're not going to like this one, but stick with me. Pain and suffering are the end of the world and to be avoided at all costs. Bodyguard God is based on two tenets. You kill these two tenets, you kill Bodyguard God. Number one, God's job is to make me happy. If I'm good, he owes me. If I'm good, I've done my part, he owes me. I'm not Mother Teresa, okay? But I put my money in the money box. I say Our Father every now and then. I show up at church at least once a month. If I do my part, I'm better than Jim in the cubicle next door, better than those bad people on whatever. If I'm that, God owes me. And then number two, what does he owe me? A pain-free life, a problem-free life. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Like, as I'm saying that, are you like, yeah, what's the problem with that? Question for you. And I want you to think. No, be honest. Is God supposed to protect me from all harm? Is that what his job is? Is that what his purpose in life is? Is to protect me from all harm? To make sure that I never get hurt? To make sure that I never have hard times? To make sure that I never suffer? Because if so, then one of two things has to be true. A, God is dropping the ball and not doing his job. Or B, I must not be worth much in his eyes. Because I know I have suffering. I know I have pain. So if his job is to protect his kids, the ones he loves, from pain, either he's not doing a good job, he's not a good father, or maybe I'm not a good son. You see where this lie takes you? Last series, for those who are here, we tried to memorize a verse every week. It was about the Bible. Any remember any of the verses we memorized? Do you remember the first verse from John chapter 8:31? This would be like bonus points. This would be like you get a spot in heaven, like next to St. Mary, I promise you, okay? Anyone remember John 8:31?
If you abide by the word, you are my disciple indeed.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Now again, I can't see you. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody got the verse right. If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. And then the second part is what? And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You young man, you get a lollipop or something at the end of the day. I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the light. This is Archangel Michael, as far as I know, that said it, okay? But good for you, okay? The part that I want to get to is that you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Today, I believe that in order to be freed from this false God, we need truth. So I'm going to give you today 4 truths. Each one is, I told you the 2 false myths that Bodyguard God is built on. We're going to knock those down, and we're going to build 4 pillars. And we're going to do it logically, and each pillar builds the truth upon which God rests. 4 truths. Truth number 1. God is not the creator of evil, man is. God is not the creator of evil, man is. Have you ever been accused of something that you didn't do? Been accused of, I hope no one's been accused of a crime, but have you ever been accused, someone said you did this and you didn't do it? I think I shared this story before. I'll never forget. Second grade. A young little Father Anthony, okay, was in second grade. Okay, rocking his little, shoes with the jams. Who remembers jams? You guys remember jams? I used to wear those things. And I'm just a good kid because I'm a good kid. Like, I'm a priest. I'm a great kid. And I still remember it, man. Sister Ann Hughes, man, she was tough. And Sister Ann Hughes had her back turned to the class. And then someone, who I know exactly who it was, I'll tell you his name, but in case he ever listens to this, I won't say his name right now. Did something like, I think he passed gas or made a whatever sound or whatever it was. And I started laughing. I was not the passer of the gas, okay? I was not the fake. I was nothing. But she turned around, saw me laughing, and she grabbed my ear, okay? And it was like the death grip, man. Like, this lady could have been a professional wrestler. She grabbed my ear and pulled me up, and I'll never forget it to this day. And I got in trouble. I'll never forget it to this day because I didn't do it. It stings to get accused of committing a crime that you didn't actually commit. It stings to get blamed for something that you didn't do. Would you agree with that? We do that to God all the time. Drunk driver. God, how could you? God, how could you? What? You're talking about the God who said don't drink? Talking about the God who said obey the law? That God who said don't do that, and then the guy did it, and then you blame the God? Friend lies to you. Someone cheats on you. Someone breaks your heart. God, how could you? God, how could you? What God have to do with anything? God created only good. God did not create any evil. God did not create any sin. And we know this because if you go back to the very beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, after God finished all of his creation, it says, then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was, say it with me, it was very good. Not just good, but very good. So God only created good. God did not create lying. God did not create cheating. God did not create murder. In fact, God did his best many, many pages of scripture and many years of history to say, I don't like any of those things. Don't do those. So where did evil come from? If God didn't create it, where did evil come from? Evil came from me. Evil came from man. Now, I won't get too far into this. It's something we talk about in membership group, okay, for those who have attended that before, that evil ultimately came from free will. So God did not create evil, but God created me as his son. And as his son, made in his image, he created me to be free, not a slave, not a robot, not a pet. Okay? A slave, a robot, a pet, that's not how God looks at us. God looks at us as children, sons and daughters. So the way you treat a son and daughter, okay, a baby, you just say, hey, you go to sleep at this time, you brush your teeth when I tell you, you eat this smashed up food right here because I said so. You give no freedom. You tell it what to do. But in an adult, you say, hey, you're in college, get good grades, stay out of trouble, and do your best. You'll be held accountable for the decisions that you make. God treats us like an adult, not a child. He gives man freedom. He tells Adam and Eve, you can do whatever you want, but if you do that, there's accountability. So free will and accountability have to go together. Okay, sometimes we don't like that. We want the freedom to choose. We don't want the accountability, but it's a package deal. And God said, I'm going to give you free will, but there's going to be accountability. Free will is where sin came from, is where evil came from. Because God respected me enough and respects us all to give us free will. That's where evil comes from. In other words, we are not robots. We have the ability to choose. And I want to say 95% of the evil and suffering and pain in the world come directly from our choices. 95% from our choices, holistically like man's choices. Okay, we choose to kill, we choose to abuse, we choose to lie, we choose to steal. Even something as like famine, when people die of hunger, famine. Whose fault is that? Who do we blame for that? God? You probably heard the statistic like I have, that the earth produces enough food for every single person to eat 3,000 calories per day, which is more than enough. The earth produces enough food. So why is it that people die of hunger? Because we are selfish. And people are corrupt. And people steal. And people are selfish and take things just for themselves in excess. The truth of the matter is, God gives us the free will, and in the end, any decision that we make is on us, not on him. Like God gives me two hands. I can use these two hands to punch you or to hug you. God gives me this mouth. I can use it to build you up or to tear you down. We have the choice. But do not blame God for the choices that you make and that others make. Do not. It is not fair to blame God. It is not fair to blame God who says, do not murder, and someone murders and say, God, it's your fault. Not God's fault. The only way to remove, listen carefully, the only way to remove the free will of that guy is to remove the free will of all of us. The only way to remove the free will of others is to remove the free will of myself. And then we wouldn't be children. Then we would be robots. And that wouldn't be a relationship. That wouldn't be love. So, if there's free will, there would be pain. We expect it. We're not surprised by it. We're not shocked when people make bad decisions. Just like a parent isn't shocked when a child cries or a child gets into trouble. We expect that. And God knows that we as his children will make mistakes. We don't blame God. God is not the author of evil. Okay, second question. You may be thinking to yourself, okay, Father Anthony, I'm with you. He's not the creator. But finish the sentence for me. But if he wanted, he could have stopped it. Couldn't he have stopped the drunk driver? Couldn't he have stopped the shooter? Couldn't he have stopped the plane from whatever? Couldn't he have sent the cancer? Couldn't he have healed the cancer? Answer, yes. Number 2, the day is coming when suffering will end and evil will be judged. But that day is not today. But that day is coming. There will be a day when suffering will end, evil will be judged. The example I like to give, imagine a teacher at school who's got, little middle schoolers. So she's in class, the middle schoolers are doing whatever it may be, and she's in control. Then all of a sudden it's time for recess. So it's like, okay, kids go out to the playground for 15 minutes of recess, and then the bell rings and the teacher comes out and picks them up. During those 15 minutes of recess, it's chaos. It's anarchy. It's survival of the fittest. The strong boy survives. And there may be a little bully who's bullying people and kicking dirt in someone's face and pushed another kid down. All these things may take place. But fear not, because recess will end, the bell will ring, recess will end, and then who will walk onto the stage? The teacher. And what happens when the teacher walks on stage? Justice will be served. Justice will be served. There will be accountability, and there will be justice. That child is, quote, getting away with it now. But make no mistake, the teacher will walk back in the room. Recess will end. And there, everything will be made right. I want to read you a passage from Psalm 94. It's a very long psalm, so I'm just going to get you some kind of excerpts. It actually came to me in my quiet time the day that I was preparing this message, and I thought it was perfectly from God. It's basically about King David talking about how, hey, exactly like this. Why does it seem like the evil guys win and good guys finish last? Why you're letting the bad guys prosper and the good guys are suffering and miserable? This is what he says. He says, "O Lord, how long shall the wicked exalt? They pour out their arrogant words, all the evildoers boast." I think a lot of people were thinking this over this past couple of weeks with all that we've seen in the world. "They crush your people, O Lord, and they afflict your heritage. They kill the widow and the sojourner and murder the fatherless. And they say, the Lord does not see. The God of Jacob does not perceive." That's what they say, that God does not see. "Understand, O dullest of the people." He's talking to you now. They say that. He's saying, you say that? Dull people. Dull is a very good way to insult someone in a biblical way. "O dullest of people, fools, when will you be wise? He who planted the ear, does he not hear? He who formed the eye, does he not see?" Like you see something he doesn't see, you hear something he doesn't hear. "He will bring back on them their iniquity and wipe them out for their wickedness. The Lord our God will wipe them out." In other words, the bell will ring. Justice will be served. And he, the teacher, will bring justice, not the students. It's not our job as students. We're not vigilant. It's not the conch. What was that? The island with the book. What was that story? Lord of the Flies. It's not Lord of the Flies. Okay? Y'all read Lord of the Flies? Not on YouTube or something, so I don't know, young people don't read, but Lord of the Flies, what they made us read, it's not anarchy like that. It's not the inmates running the asylum. No. The teacher will come back, and the teacher sees, and the teacher knows, and there will be justice, and there will be retribution. But now is not that time. Now is the time that we wait. Now is the time that we endure. Now is the time, the brief moment in time, and I'll get to why I say brief in a second. Now is the brief moment in time when evil is allowed to win. When evil is allowed to run rampant. And truthfully, it's not really allowed to run rampant, because if it was really allowed, what we see would be much worse than what it is. Now is the time when the teacher is watching all, but he's allowing the students. Now is the time when the teacher's doing that. But make no mistake, teacher's coming back. And there will be justice served. Every time we pray in the divine liturgy, what do we say? We say that he has appointed a day for recompense. You know what recompense is? Retribution. He has appointed a day for recompense on which he will appear to judge the world in righteousness and give each one according to his deeds. And give each one according to his deeds. Now, I know that sounds like a scary verse, but you realize that it's not scary if your deeds are good. Because if parent left the two kids at home and one did what they were told to do and was promised a reward and the other one didn't, the first kid is not going to be afraid of the day of recompense. I'm looking for, you know what recompense is called? It's called payday, Jack. Okay? It's called a salary. That's what that is. That's payday. That's the reward. I'm looking for that. I'm looking, if I'm faithful, I'm looking for the reward. So reward each one according to their deeds. Yeah, but that's why we focus on the good deeds. But the bottom line is, the movie isn't over yet. We're still midway through the movie. You know when you're watching the movie, every movie's the same. I've told you all this before. There's a point every movie where it seems like the good guy's going to lose. Every movie has this. Okay, and if you don't realize this, then you're not paying attention because every movie has the exact same script. Okay, the good guy's up here, the good guy goes here, and then that's the same. The good guy looks like he's going to lose at a point in time. If you turned off the movie there, you would say that was an awful movie. He just let the bad guy win. And my response to you would be, hey, keep watching. Keep watching. Get to the end of the movie and then judge the author or then judge the writer of the movie. Get to the end of the book and then judge the book. But right now, just wait and see. To which you'd respond, we'll go to our third truth now. You'd respond and say, okay, Father Anthony, I'm with you. I know God will reward. I know that the second half of the movie, I know that God will reward. But somehow, if the first half is really bad, I might walk out. And that's where a lot of us are. You know what? The first half is so bad. I believe there's probably a great end at some point, but I just can't take it anymore. I can't take this God who just allows all this bad stuff. I'll say this to you. Number 3, although suffering is not good, God can and God does use it to accomplish good. Now, this is a big topic. Truthfully, I don't have enough time for this. This is like a whole series by itself on how God brings good out of bad. So I'm not going to delve into it, but I'm happy to chat with anyone afterwards. I can refer you. I've given a series on this so much. But all I want to say is this briefly. Be honest. Be honest in front of God. Look back on your life and look back on the pain and the suffering and the things that you hated and tell me in front of God that you don't see any good that came from it. Because I guarantee you that if you look, you will find that some of the hardest moments led to good. And that's why I've asked this question to many people. I said it myself before. Okay, you can look at me and you say, I've gone through stuff. Everyone's gone through stuff. I can honestly say in front of God, I can look at the worst things that have happened to us in our life. I can say the hardest times that me and my family went through. I can say those times I wouldn't change a thing. Can you believe that? Times that made me not know what's going to happen tomorrow. Times that made me not be able to sleep. Times that made me cry in prayer. I would go back right now, I wouldn't change a thing. Why? Because I know good came out of it. And if you're honest, and you look back on your suffering, if you're honest, you'll see the good came out of that too. It's hard to see that in the moment, but it's easy to look back. And if we're honest, we can see that good came out of it. What good? Okay, again, not getting into this whole thing. Often repentance comes from hard times. Okay, you just look back to, we just celebrated 9/11 anniversary. I still remember, okay, the Sunday after 9/11 happened. Churches were packed. Churches were packed. Churches that were empty the week before, packed. After any tragedy, after any suffering, people often repent. So maybe it brought repentance. Sometimes the pain and the suffering, it's a wake-up call for us. And we don't like that wake-up call, but we had a series on this earlier about how God, that wake-up call, that alarm clock, it never, discipline, that's what the scripture says. Discipline is never received well in the moment. But looking back on it, aren't we glad our parents disciplined us? Aren't we glad? Well, sometimes we're glad that God disciplines us as well. God can bring good out of the bad. The number one way that God brings good out of bad, okay, like I said, there's a big topic, but I would say the number one way is he makes us more like Christ through it. Now I'm going to show you a verse right here from John chapter 15, verse 19 through 20. It says, if you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world, say it with me, the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. Look here, our master, The one that we say, we did a whole series called Follow Me. We said we want to follow him. We want to follow in his steps. We want to walk as he walked. Our master. Did our master live an easy life? Did our master, earlier I told you the lie about how suffering is the worst thing ever. Suffering is to be avoided at all costs. Did Jesus avoid suffering? Okay, how about Jesus' followers? His earliest followers. He was so close to them. Did he shield them from all pain and evil and suffering? Our church, we celebrate the martyrs. We just celebrated the Coptic New Year. We talk about the martyrs. All the martyrs. Were they shielded? Who told you that pain is the worst thing in the world? I know it sounds like a dumb question, but who told you? Who told you that you should avoid suffering at all costs? And I say that and you're like, Father Anthony, that's intuitive. Now let me tell you what's intuitive. If you're a parent, be honest. Do you protect your child from all pain, or do you ever cause pain to your child? We intuitively know that sometimes our kids need pain. They need a shot when they don't want to take a shot. They don't understand, they'll understand later. It's for their own good. They need medicine when they don't want medicine. They need broccoli and Brussels sprouts when they don't want broccoli and Brussels sprouts. That we know intuitively. And I got news for you. If you're a parent who doesn't give your child pain and gives your child no suffering, then you're doing a disservice to the rest of us in the world. You are. Truthfully, you are. Because a child needs discipline. A child doesn't understand that sometimes something is bad for me, but it's good for me. A child doesn't understand that pain can have a purpose. But we're adults, we get it. Let me ask you a question. You and your child who doesn't get anything, you and your child, that gap, compare that to the gap between you and God. Which gap do you think is bigger? Which gap do you think is bigger? Little Junior, who's 4, and you're 35 or 40 or whatever it is. You got a 40-year jump on him. But truthfully, in about 15 years, he's going to have passed you, to be honest. You got 15 years before a kid passes you. How many years has God got on us? 15? 15 centuries? 15,000 centuries? Come on now. The difference between you and little Junior, as cute as a button as he may be, the difference between you and Junior, who doesn't understand the thing, is that. The difference between you and God. So do you think that maybe, just maybe, that God, there's a pain, and there's a purpose to that pain? That there's a suffering, and it may be redemptive. It may be a healing pain, a healing suffering. There's like 5,000 verses in the Bible on this, but I just brought you 2 right here. Romans 8:18. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. St. Paul, a guy who suffered a lot, said, look, suffering, bad, but it's nothing compared to the glory which God is using this to bring in our life. Next verse, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17. For our light affliction, I love how he says light affliction. The guy got beaten and stoned and shipwrecked. Our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Look, like I said a minute ago, it is too much for me today to delve into this topic. But all I want to say is I want to challenge you to push back against the lie. The lie of society and culture is that everything is supposed to be easy. That everything that's hard is bad. There's supposed to be a medicine to fix that. There's supposed to be a technology to solve that. There's supposed to be someone to protect you 24 hours a day, and no harm should get inside the bubble. That's the lie that we've been taught to believe. And I'm telling you, we got to push back on that. Because intuitively, you know that a life without any hardship is not a life worth living. A life that's all comfort. A life without adversity. Again, parents, do you want your children to have never faced any adversity in life? Or do you want your children to have the muscles to be able to endure the adversity? Which do you want for your children? And I don't want to hear the answer, because some of them might be worried about the answer. Intuitively, we know, if I want to be great, I want to be a great athlete, I know I got to train hard. I know I got to push myself. I know I got to challenge myself, but I know the challenge will build strength and resilience and endurance, and that will pay off. I believe the same is true spiritually. And you believe the same. I'm going to give you a verse from Revelation chapter 2 that I want you to take this verse, not literally because it talks about but almost literally. Okay, but in a different context. You see what I'm saying right here. Says, do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Do not fear. This was a letter written to the church. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested. Now, I'm not hoping anyone goes to prison, but he was saying this was a time of persecution, which he's saying to the church, do not be afraid. I'm not saying don't be afraid because it's never going to be a hard time. I'm not saying don't be afraid because it's not going to be evil. I'm not saying don't be afraid because everything's going to be easy. I'm saying it's going to be hard. Do not be afraid. You will see evil. The devil will throw some of you into prison. But here's the next verse. You will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Repeat after me. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Again, be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. The theme of the book of Revelation is exactly this, and that's our fourth truth I want to finish up with. This. Our suffering will pale in comparison to the future glory that awaits us. Our suffering will pale in comparison to the future glory that awaits us. Now, I'm not saying this to minimize your pain and suffering. I get it. There's people who've gone through hard times. And there isn't anyone in this room who doesn't have a story to share. I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just trying to put it in perspective. Imagine this perspective. Imagine January 1st, New Year's Day. You have the worst day ever. Worst day ever. You get in an accident on the way home from work. Well, you're not working, it's a day off. You get in an accident on the way home from church. You come home, your house is robbed. They took all your stuff. You got fired that same day. You stepped in the neighbor's dog's poop in your lawn. Like the worst day imaginable. Name anything bad that could have happened, worst day imaginable. That's January 1st. And then January 2nd, things turn around. January 2nd, your uncle dies. He was a bazillionaire. He was Warren Buffett's financial guy. You inherit $200 million. Same day, you get a new job. And it's like your dream job. A job that you can't imagine they actually pay you for. What I came up with is the people who taste food and they pay them to go eat at restaurants and taste the food and say what's good and not good. That to me, I can't believe that's a job where they pay you. Okay? Like I go to taste the food and they charge me. You get that job and they pay you $1 million a year for that job. You get tickets to the Super Bowl and your team is in it and they tell you you can play in the game if you want, okay? And you're MVP, like whatever. That's just January 2nd. And then January 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way to December 31st continues that trend. All the year long continues that trend. And then you get to December 31st. And someone says, how was your year? What would you say? Great. Thank you. Best year. Best year. But they say, hey, but January 1st, that was a pretty crappy day, wasn't it? Like, didn't you tell me how much like bad stuff happened to you? You'd say what? You'd say, number one, you'd say, I probably don't remember it. But you'd say, even if I do remember it, the rest of the year more than made up for it. Would you agree with that? I'm not saying you won't suffer on this earth. You may suffer 50, 60, 70, 80. I don't know how many years God has for you on this earth. But in heaven, I know you will be rewarded. Not for 50, 60, 70 years. Not for 50, 60, 70 centuries. Let's go 5 trillion million years. And that's just the first half. And that's perfect bliss. No pain. No suffering. No tears. Just joy. In light of heaven, your worst suffering on this earth, again, I'm not trying to make light of it, I'm just putting it in context. In the light of heaven, your worst suffering on this earth will seem like one night of bad diarrhea. And that's it. Because it'll be nothing compared to the glory that awaits. 1 Corinthians 2:9 is a verse that you should memorize. It says, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. Repeat after me. Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. That's who our God is. Our God is not a bodyguard. Our God is a God who's not the creator of evil. He is someone who watches all and sees all, and there will be a day of judgment. He is someone who makes good out of the bad. He allows bad, but he makes good out of it. Then ultimately, in the end, it'll be nothing compared to the reward that awaits us. I want to finish you off with this story, true story, about a guy who was a British guy who he was paralyzed for his life, and that's because at age 1, he had a horrible accident, and something in his spine, so he's paralyzed from age 1, from doing nothing, innocent victim, nothing. When he was 17 years old, he was interviewed by a magazine, and they asked him the question, do you think God is fair? Do you think God is fair? 17-year-old kid, paralyzed from age 1, no fault of his own. Do you think God is fair? Do you know what his response was? First of all, he's 17 years old. At 17 years old, you're supposed to be a punk anyway. And you had this horrible tragedy. So right now, right off the bat, if he says, I don't think God is fair, none of us would judge him. None of us would judge him. None of us would judge him. His life was ruined before he even had a shot. He said, I do think God is fair. The magazine reporter said, how could that be? That you've been suffering for 17 years in hospitals and you think God is fair? He said, quote, God has all of eternity to make it up to me. Amen to that. That's a kid who knows his stuff. That's a kid who knows his God. That's a kid who knows that while this world may not have the removal of evil, make no mistake that in the end, all will be made right. No one will get to the end and say, God, you were unfair. God will make all things right. But now we trust him. Now we look to him to make good out of our evil until the day comes when he walks back on stage.